Hey guys, what's going on? This is your favorite guy, Panda, and let me tell you, you're listening to Pandanomics, New York Weekly's #1 podcast in 2020. And right now, we have a great company called Glass Bullet Productions. They are well known for their media. They're working with us, Fox Sports, Papa Roach, and USF, and they are backed by 100% satisfaction guarantee. In this day and age, content and media are so important, and that is why we work with them. Check them out at glassbullet.media and let them know that the Panda sent you. Check it out. Hey guys, what's going on? This is David Chen, and you're on another amazing edition of Pandanomics Podcast, New York Weekly's #1 podcast in 2020. And today we have one of my good friends, business partners, Hall of Fame legend, and GQ model extraordinaire, Brian Urlacher. What's up, Brian?
GQ model, yeah. I didn't know that was on my list of accomplishments there.
Dude, it's on. I promise you, it says GQ model extraordinaire,
Okay, cool.
Spice pimp, everything else that's there. So it's great to see you, Brian. You know, it's an amazing. I remember the first time your name was mentioned. I didn't tell you the story, but Roenick, who's a good friend of ours and one of our partners, Jim Roenick, had mentioned that we could talk to Brian Urlacher. I was probably very nervous because you're absolutely one of my most favorite football players of all time. I didn't even tell you that the first time we met.
No, you did. That's cool to hear, though.
But you are definitely one of my most favorite football players and now one of my most favorite human beings of all time. So thanks for joining us today. You know, you grew up in Lovington, New Mexico, right? So you know where El Paso is.
Yep.
You went to UNM. You know, growing up in Lovington, such a small city, you became this Hall of Fame amazing player. But when you were back then in a small city, did you ever think you were going to be where you are in your life in football?
No way, man. You know, where I grew up, as you say, it's oil field and dirt. That's really all we have. Some tumbleweeds and some pump jacks and oil field. That's all we had there. So just getting a chance to play college football was a big deal for me. You know, high school we were pretty good. Man, our town revolved around football. Man, Friday night once the games rolled around, the town shut down. Man, everyone went to the game. But to get the opportunity to go to college after Lovington was a big deal, and then to get the chance to go to the NFL was an even bigger deal. But you know, you never think you're gonna get out. You know, most everyone there who's born there or lives there doesn't leave town. You know, that's what we do. We stay there. We work in the oil field. If you're lucky enough to get out, you know, you usually end up back there in the future at some point. But I was fortunate enough to go to UNM and play football, and then further my career from there. But it's a great place to be from, and there wasn't a whole lot going on there, which was a good thing for me.
Where did you develop your work ethic and your drive and motivation? In a small city, it's hard to see that, right? Unless we're watching TV, it's not everyone around you's going to do it. How did you develop that to become such a force?
Man, my parents were sticklers, dude. They were tough. My parents both worked their butts off. As far back as I can remember, they worked their tails off. My high school coaches were always pushing me. I had one coach in particular, Coach Quinones, who was always on my ass about getting in the gym, getting in the weight room, doing things the right way, being on time, and just that was echoed by my parents. Man, my parents, I saw it every day with them, so it wasn't hard to know. You know what's crazy is I saw them go to work every day, and I was like, damn, do I want to do that when I grow up? You know, do I want to go? My dad worked 10 hours a day in the oil field, and at least 10 hours. He would leave the house at 5:30, get home at 3:30 or 4. My mom ran the youth center there in our town, but they both busted their ass so us kids could have what we had when we were kids.
It's amazing. When you were in high school from a small city, like people don't realize back in the day we're the same age, right? So there was no YouTube, there was no Instagram. It was like coaches either calling or you're calling recruiting. Tell me about that process from a small city and how that worked when you were doing that.
The getting recruited part?
Yep.
Dude, so I got a ton of letters in the mail. My whole junior and senior, I got a bunch of letters in the mail. Yale sent me letters. I was getting a bunch from small schools, but I didn't have any offers. You know, I went to a camp at Texas Tech before my senior year, and I was the most outstanding camper. So I was like, okay, for sure. They're definitely going to offer me a scholarship. They didn't. They told me I could walk on there if I want to go to school there. I couldn't afford that. So that was out of the question. But Lubbock is like 80 miles from Lovington. So that was a natural fit, I thought. And then UNM recruited me the whole time. And I took a visit. You know, Coach Fram was like, we'd like to offer you a scholarship, but if you don't take it right now, we're giving it to somebody else. So I was like, I'll take it. You know, sign me up. Where do I sign? And then later on down the line, after I committed to UNM, I think New Mexico State offered me a scholarship. I think they felt bad that they weren't in on it. And then they offered me. I'd already committed, so it didn't matter to me. Plus, I wouldn't go there anyway, so it worked out good that I went to UNM. But the process, I didn't really get to experience what these kids are doing now, taking 3 or 4 trips to different schools, and I took one. It was the right one to take, and I committed right then.
It's amazing. I love hearing the story about how you go on this camp, you're the best player there, and you get no offers. There's a little sense of discouragement at that point, right? You're like, if I'm so good, how the hell am I not getting any offers? How did you work through that as such a young man to still focus on what you're trying to do?
It was frustrating, David. I was like, they're definitely gonna offer me a scholarship. There's no way I'm not going to Texas Tech. And then they just, I know I went to a small school in New Mexico. I know that the competition probably wasn't as good as some of the other kids they were recruiting, but my size was there, my speed. There's 500 kids at their camp, and I competed with all of them, and they were a lot from Texas as well. Texas is the standard down there where we are. That's where all the good football players are. So it was disappointing, but at the same time, man, being from Lovington, getting a college football scholarship offered, that was pretty damn cool. Just to get an offer from UNM or anyone would have been neat, but to get a D1 offer was pretty exciting for me. So I wasn't too discouraged.
How amazing, man! You took a positive that unfortunately was a negative, and then became a great positive. So now you're playing at UNM, right? You hear this thought that you might be going pro, right?
Yeah.
What was the first time you heard that? Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, I didn't play football thinking I was going to go pro. I was like, okay, I get to go to school for 4 or 5 years and get a free schooling. I was happy about that. And at that point, I still had some ambition to go out in the job force and do something. But God, probably my sophomore year, because I got to UNM, I was 6'4", 200 pounds. I was skinny, man. So I had to put on. So I put on 35 pounds my freshman year.
Wow.
At the end of that, I was 235. I played my whole freshman year on special teams, so I didn't redshirt. And then my sophomore year, I still didn't start. I played half the time, and I led our team in tackles. So I could see I was getting better. And then at the end of my sophomore year, I was 6'4", 235, 240. I was good size. I could still run. And then when Coach Long came in my last 2 years, I changed positions. I went to free safety. And then I was like, that's when all the scouts coming in. Everyone started talking about me, going up their draft boards, this and that. And that's all fine and dandy, but you got to stay healthy. You got to play well, and you got to stay healthy while you're playing. So fortunately, I was able to do both. And man, it's crazy. The heavier I got, the faster I got. I was gaining good weight still all the way throughout my college career. I was explosive. I was performing well in the weight room. I just got better and better. And like I said, my draft stock kept going up and up.
It's amazing, man. So here you go, free safety. You're about you go 9th, first round pick, right? I talked to plenty of athletes. The first round is like amazing. Top 10 is holy cow. What's going through your mind draft night as that's happening?
Man, what's crazy is so after the season, Mel Kiper projected me number 9 to the Bears. The whole time, the whole 4 months, I was like, there's no way they're going to draft me there, blah, blah, blah. I really want, what's crazy, I wanted to go to Arizona. They picked number 7, and Arizona's close to New Mexico. So, of course, I wanted to stay close to home. I'm glad I didn't, but I wanted to go there. They picked Thomas Jones, who's also one of my teammates in Chicago for a couple of years. But, leading up to the draft, the projections are always there, but you don't know. You sit there those 15 minutes when the pick comes up and you just wait. And the 2 hours before then was pretty strenuous as well, picking 1 through 8. But the Bears called. I took a visit up there before the draft, and the Bears called at the beginning of the 9th pick, and I was like, oh, they said we're going to draft you. I was like, holy that was my family was there. We're all together. A bunch of friends from my hometown were there, and it was cool, man. And that evening we flew out to Chicago. Went to a Cubs game, threw out the first pitch of the Cubs game the next day in Chicago. And I was a Cubs fan growing up as a kid because of WGN. It was the Cubs and Braves. WGN and TBS from like Tuesday. That's all we had in the summer, man. Like you probably had the same thing in El Paso.
Yeah.
In the summer, all the games during the day, so they were on every day. But man, it was cool as hell. I was fun. I didn't know anything about Chicago. Didn't know anything about the Bears, but I was happy to be going there.
That's funny. That's actually how I became a Cubs fan. It was because of WGN. That's all you could watch. Yeah, that's what,
man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. They shove it down our throat all summer long with those day games. They're on every damn day.
So, you now you're playing in the NFL, and I mean, you're killing it. Pro Bowl, Defensive Player of the Year 2005. If we have a lot of young athletes that listen to this, right?
Okay.
A lot of guys who are college might be going pro or headed pro. What advice, what's one piece of advice you would give them so they can stay consistent and at the high level that they should get to, or they continue to get to when they're playing pro?
It's so hard, David, because there's a lot of pulls. When you get to that level, there's a lot of people pushing and pulling you to do different things. I think the number one thing is stay focused on what you need to do to get better. It's hard when you get to that level, because like I said, the people are pushing and pulling you to do this and that, and you may start going that direction. But what you really need to be focused on is getting better at your craft. Because if you're not getting better, somebody else is, and they'll take your spot. There's a million guys waiting to take your spot. And I think that was good for me, because I always felt like I needed to get better every single year, every off season, during season. And my mind was always like, get better, get better, get better. You worked out with a purpose and a reason. I think some guys get relaxed. They think they've made it. Just because you get to the NFL doesn't mean you're going to stay there. It's hard to stay there, because like I said, there's a lot of guys trying to take your job. But if you have the mentality, if you want to get better every year and every play, every rep, then you will. I firmly believe that, because you're not going to get better unless you try. So just keep that in the back of your mind, that you need to get better every single season, every rep, every day.
Absolutely. Consistency creates things that success, and that success always has to happen if you want to do it.
Yep.
As you're sitting there and you're part of, such a legacy in the NFL and doing such amazing things. The other thing I thought was super interesting was during your time as you were playing, like, you're one of the first football guys that were completely on mainstream TV, right? Like, we're talking about Old Spice, we're talking about some cool stuff.
Yeah.
The other day I sent you a text, and it was like, oh, it's because of Old Spice. It was a joke.
You're always making fun of me for that, man. You are.
I love it, dude. It's the greatest. I'll tell you what, I bought the body wash because you had it, so it worked out.
Okay, cool.
Tell me about this Old Spice thing. Like, they're approaching you. You're in the NFL. You're like, you want me to do Old Spice? How did that happen?
So these days, Old Spice is cool. The commercials are funny as hell. I love watching their commercials. But back then, I want to say it was 2003 or 2004 when we started doing stuff for them. But I didn't do a lot of stuff. I did a select few. Vitamin Water, obviously. Old Spice. I was with Nike most of my whole career. I was with Nike. But of course, if it sounds cool, I'm going to do it. They're like, we want to put you in a commercial. Here's the concept. And of course, I'm looking like a dork in the commercial. That was me before Old Spice, or however, you probably know it better than I do. But it's just the concepts were so funny. And if they weren't funny and they weren't kind of cheesy, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I'm okay making fun of myself. I have no problem doing that. So I think it was cool to be a part of that. And I was honestly happy they asked me to do it, because there's so many good players in the NFL. I was happy they chose me.
Yeah, I mean, the way they did it was literally, it was so fire. And I remember the commercial, and I was like, dude, this guy is a pimp. And going from there, you didn't Vitamin Water, right? I mean, marketing was phenomenal. The exit was unbelievable, right?
Yes.
You had some great people. How did you get involved in Vitamin Water, and what did you see in the beginning of their journey that made you recognize that it was a good thing to be part of?
So Mike Rapoli, I'm not sure if you know Mike. He was the CEO of Vitamin Water forever before they sold to Coca-Cola. And their marketing people came to my agent Bryce, who handled all my stuff, and they were talking about a deal, and it was mostly based on shares, getting shares in Vitamin Water. I was like, okay, I hadn't heard of Vitamin Water. They were fairly new, but I liked it, and like I said, they were trendy, they were fun, they did cool commercials, they pushed the product. I did a commercial with Dwight Howard, David Ortiz, Carrie Underwood, Adrian Pearson, 50 Cent was in the commercial. We were these astronauts going to space or something like that. And just the stuff they did was cool. I told Bryce, I always enjoyed doing their commercials because they're always fun. They did a fishing, a giveaway for a fishing trip, and I got to be on the trip. Just, they did cool stuff I was interested in. And they always asked me, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? If we're going to do something, do you want to be part of this and that? Which I also appreciated, because most of the time you're going to do this, show up, here's your lines, do it. And they weren't like that. They were totally different, and they listened to me.
Yeah, well, it obviously worked, because it was one of the biggest exits ever, right?
Yeah,
so
huge.
I mean, so a lot of their trends and their marketing was so over the top, right? Like, you did mention the astronauts, and you're looking over, you're like, it's Urlacher with 50 Cent. Like, what is going on? This is crazy, right? As that was growing, when you see companies that you're working with, right, companies that you own, that you're part of, ultimately, as an athlete, right, probably gets approached by everybody to do something. What is the one thing that you'll always see that this is why I'll do business with someone and why I won't do business with someone?
So I don't do business with a lot of people, but if I like people and I feel like they're truly good people, I'll definitely do business with them. And JR introduced us. And JR is a good friend of mine. I have a lot of respect for JR, and he wouldn't steer me in the wrong direction. So, but most of the time, most of the commitments, like I was with Nike for my whole career, and I worked with the same, just like much like Vitamin Water. My commercials were a blast because I was with the same people from Nike not the same athletes, but the same people who ran the commercials every time, the same marketing people. So it was fun for me. I trusted them. I knew they weren't going to make me look dumber than I made myself look. So it was it was easy to do, but I really like working with good people and people that I trust because I know they're not going to make me look bad. I can do it all by myself.
Yeah,
I don't need help.
I love that. Character is what I always tell people. Like, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have character, it's not worth anything, right? Because you always have to worry about the knife. And so we've been very blessed to have just great character people, and when the timing is what it's supposed to be, it's going from there. Recently, obviously, you joined us at NACL a little bit ago, and you're obviously one of our partners, and it was such an honor just to even have you come on and to hear that and all the great projects you worked with. So we're hoping to be another home run for you. But
I hope so too.
Your son Kennedy, right? Kennedy is a stud. He's got an offer already in college, right? Yep. And he's a great gamer, right? So
the dude plays this game all the time, David. It drives me crazy.
But he's really good. I mean, the kid is good and he's solid.
Well, he better be good as much as he plays. I give him a hard time, but the dude, he does his homework. He goes to practice, does his homework, and then it's on the game, or he's in there, got his headsets on, screaming at people. But yeah, as long as he does his homework and stuff, he can game all he wants to, and he enjoys it. He plays with his buddies. It's fun. He keeps them busy, especially during the pandemic because there was nothing to do. Yeah, my man was in there playing his game 12 hours a day. I was like, oh, what else are we gonna do? We already worked out, so we might as well get after it.
Absolutely. I mean, they had to meet all their friends going from there. As you entered this world and you start learning more and more about it, and more of the cool things are there, how insane is it to you now when we were growing up in video games, and how different is it now than it was before?
Yeah, so I was a big Super Mario Brothers. That was my game on the Nintendo. And then I played Galaga like it was going out of style. Did you ever play Galaga when you were a kid?
Of course, man. I love Galaga.
Dude, my hand used to be so tired from hitting that fire button. But to see how far it's come and the reach of games now, I mean, the computers, all the gaming systems they have, and it's worldwide. It's global. People love the gaming industry. Kids are going to college because of it. People are making careers out of it. It's amazing how far it's come. And as a kid, you never would have guessed that this would be blowing up the way it is right now. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And now you got guys who all play college ball, and they're all gamers, and they do both, and it's part of the lifestyle. And the other thing I always thought was interesting about gaming is, like, a lot of the guys now, they'll read their defenses, they'll read their offenses, kind of go from there, and it helps them better understand the game and the playbooks that exist, right? And so that's been kind of cool to see as well too.
Yeah, I mean, you got to understand what's going on. When I played, the few times I played Madden with Kennedy, man, I got no idea. I'm selecting plays, and what's him and my daughter play? They never punt. They throw a Hail Mary like every other. I'm like, that's not smart. You need to punt this ball. It's 4th and 17 from your own 5. Punt the ball. So there's some concepts that do make sense. Agree, but like they're the most aggressive players I've ever been around. It's great to watch. I think if I was a head coach in high school, that might be my mentality. But they got it all. They go hard. They're aggressive as hell on their calls in the game in there.
It's insane because you talk about how aggressive hell and calls and things like that. I mean, you made the Hall of Fame, right? I've seen the trophy, and I looked at it, and I was like, holy cow, I've never seen anything so beautiful in my life. Tell me about that moment, man.
Oh man, so I didn't play football thinking I was going to go to the Hall of Fame ever. That was never my goal. That's not why. I play football because I love it. Now, if I happen to get there in the end when I was all said and done, amazing. But dude, that whole experience was, first of all, stressful because you fly into the Super Bowl the night before the game, and you're all at a hotel, and the next day on Saturday, it's on Saturday. They come, and if they knock on your door, you made it. They all go in to vote that Saturday morning. All the reporters go in to vote, or the sports writers. And then if they call your room, you didn't make it. So, stress, dude. So we're sitting there. They're like, okay, between 2 and 5, try and be in your room. I'm like, that's 3 hours to sit and wait for this junk. So luckily, David Baker, big ass 6'9", David, 400 pounds, comes and beating on my door. I was like, oh, thank God. Because it's stressful. Your kids are in there. My wife in there. My kids were in there. I had a couple buddies in there. It's just stressful waiting. to see what's going to happen. And luckily, I got it on my first try. And getting ready for my speech, man, dude, that was like, I tried to put the time in. I didn't want to embarrass myself when I went up there, so I tried to be. I'm a very fast talker, as you can tell. So I took, I was working with a guy trying to slow myself down when I was giving my speech and articulate, which sometimes I don't do. But it was such a cool process to be a part of and have all my family there. So at the weekend for my childhood, everyone was there that was part of my life. College and NFL were all combined into one. My party was everyone combined. It was amazing. And then obviously at the induction, everyone was there as well. It was really cool, fun weekend. But when I was done with my speech, it was like a huge sense of relief had been lifted. I was like, okay, now I'm actually in the Hall of Fame. I can relax. I'm good. My speech is done, and I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine sitting there for 3 hours with the other people. If you get that phone call, like how awful it is, or how stressful that knock is, and it's the maid first. You're like, leave me alone, honey, room service.
For real.
But
if that phone rings, you're like, damn, man, I didn't make it. But just I'm glad I got in. But just being in that position is pretty cool anyway. I mean, you may not get in the first, second time, but just to be as a finalist, those final 15 guys for that season, you've done something. Just to be at that level. A lot of guys don't get in their first, second time, but to be at that level, to have a chance to get that phone call or knock is pretty cool in my opinion.
It's insane, man. I mean,
yeah.
it is absolutely insane. Everyone keeps telling how you were basically like the Incredible Hulk, right? Like you just got bigger and stronger and more just like insane, right? When you first heard that, I see you chuckling now. Like what did you think when they're calling you the Incredible Hulk in the NFL from other NFL people?
Well, I felt pretty good. Honestly, to be able to have that label or be called that when you get there amongst the players, in NFL, it's pretty damn cool to be at that level with those guys. But man, like I said, I always wanted to get better. I never felt like, no matter what people said about me, good or bad, and I believe there's plenty of bad stuff too, David. There's a lot of stuff out there, but that just slides off your back. I can't imagine playing during social media era. These poor guys now, with all the nasty comments people are saying. And it happened a little bit when I was playing, but I didn't read that stuff, man. I was like, don't do it. You're going to get pissed off. You're going to start questioning yourself. So I try to stay away from the negative and focus on the positive if I could. But these days, it's really hard to do that with the social media aspect of everything.
It is. Everybody's a critic. Everybody thinks they know the story. Mike Tyson says it best. People are too comfortable until they get punched in the mouth.
In the mouth, yes.
It's the truth. Like, we grew up where, like, if you were going to talk, you better back it up or just don't say anything. And I think it's caused a lot of like cowardice, in my opinion. Like, don't know no portions of it, want to say whatever they want to say, and the damage is done, and they just walk away as if it didn't even bother them.
Social. You can hide behind your phone. You can hide behind your TV, your computer screen, and it's just you don't have to, I guess, face up for your actions. You can just kind of say it, leave it, and go. It's no big deal. You leave a comment on someone's page or say something, not a big deal. Like you said, they don't even think about it. They just it's a normal everyday occurrence these days. It
absolutely drives me nuts. And the one thing I love about your social media that you do a lot of is you do a lot of fishing, right?
Yes.
You're a big golfer and a big fisher. In fact, you have one of your shirts on. Tell us about the shirt and the brand, because I have one. It's smooth. It's silky smooth.
This is a line. First of all, the material is great.
Yes, it's amazing.
I literally have like 70 of these shirts. I wear them every day. Not the same one. I wash them, but I have a lot of these shirts, so they're comfortable. I'm going to wear them. But it's the line break. The line breaker is the boat. That's the name of it. And it's just we got some cool. My partner in the boat. We came up with some, or he mostly did all the designs. I just benefit from the coolness of them. And we got some shirts made, and people like, it's amazing how many people want to, like, I'll post a picture of fishing, like, where'd you get that shirt? Where did we get those? Where did we buy this? Where did you buy that? People love the brand, whatever, the symbols or whatever on the shirts, which I think are pretty cool. And they're your favorite's the pink one. I know.
I love that one. It brings out my eyes, brother. Brings out my eyes.
I almost wore it today, but I figured it might be too much. You might think I might have any other shirts, but yeah, man, I love fishing. To get out on the water, we'll go 100, 120 miles offshore. No phones, no social media, nothing like that. No text messages. And we turn the music up, we fish, and we just we have a good time out there. It's my favorite thing to do. And my kids love to fish too, so that's even better.
What's the biggest fish that you caught in?
So like in 2010, we caught a Goliath grouper. It was like, it had to be 450 pounds. You can't weigh them. You can't, how you get into the boat? They're so big, you can't plus you can't keep the Goliath grouper anyway. But it had to be 450, man. When it came up, David, I was reeling it in. It looked like a Volkswagen Bug. I mean, it was just this huge thing coming out. I was like, what is this? And it's just huge. Yeah, and luckily I caught him on the right fishing pole, so I didn't have a hard time getting him up. But man, they're just so big. They look like dinosaurs. They're so ancient and they're ugly, but it's a huge fish, man. It's cool.
That's amazing. You know, I love watching it. I love going on social media. I love calling, like, what are you like in Florida? I'll call him like 3 days and see where he's at. He's just fishing. You know, it's such a sense of peace and calm. Now that you've retired, right? You're in your 40s. You're still very jacked, despite the fact that you won't admit it, but you're still very, very jacked.
Glad you think so.
Where do you go as far as what's the next step for you, and how do you balance the retirement side of it with the things that you love now?
Yeah, the next step, I have no idea. You know, I when I retired, I didn't have a plan. I still don't. You know, I'm enjoying myself. My number one plan was to be with my kids. You know, I was with them a lot when I played, but now I'm very involved right now because I'm the Uber driver. You know, I take them everywhere they need to go, this and that. But my number one plan was to be more a part of their lives and be there for everything they do. On the weekends when I played, you know, we couldn't watch their games. I was gone, either home games or traveling, so I couldn't do it. But now I'm very much a part of everything they do. Going forward, I don't know, man. You know, we got 3 or 4 years left of the kids before they all get to college. We have one in college now. She's 20. She's a sophomore at KU. We have a sophomore in high school, Riley, and then my son's a freshman. So we got a couple more years before they get out of the house, I guess you would say. And then I don't know, but I'm enjoying myself. You know, I love riding my mountain bike. That's a big deal for me, for my mental capacity, and also the more I ride, the more I can eat. I love food, David. So dude, I'm a big foodie. So the more I ride my bike, the more I can eat of the junk food that I like to eat. I love playing golf and I love fishing. I'm still going to keep doing all those things as long as I can.
Yeah, and you're amazing. You're so personable and definitely such a great guy, you know. And we just want to thank you for your time. Before we leave, what is one piece of advice you can give everybody in general so that they can continue to follow their dreams?
I think don't give up on it. You know, you just never know where you're going to end up. If you have a dream and people tell you, you know, every kid thinks they're going to go, or they wants to go to the NFL. And who knows if they're going to make it or not. I mean, the chances are very small and very slim, but until you don't make it, you don't know if you're going to make it or not. You know, you always have a chance to get there. I think as long as you keep that dream alive and keep working towards it, then you should keep trying to do as much as you can. And the desire to accomplish that dream should still stay there in your eyes.
That's right. Don't quit on your dreams, whether you're from El Paso or Lovington, New Mexico.
Yes.
Things will happen. It does not matter what city you're from. It matters the type of character you have and if you turn into the Incredible Hulk or not. So it's an amazing process, and you just never know. You just never know. And
you just don't know. Yeah? You don't know where you come from, where you grew up, what's happened to you. You just don't know where you're going to end up. So don't give up on your dreams. Keep working for them, and you never know.
Thank you. For Mr. Brian Urlacher and David Chen for Pandanomics Podcast. We thank you guys for tuning in to another amazing edition of Pandanomics. Don't forget to catch us every Wednesday night. We appreciate you guys. Thank you guys. Have a great day.